John Brown, am now quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away, but with blood.
John Brown's body lies a moldering in the grave, but it marched on above the great valley, anticipating a deadly struggle between two ways of life. For the valley flowed north into an area both agriculturally rich and industrially productive. A land where factories were becoming part of the landscape. But in the southern part of the valley and the land beyond, a way of life depending on the hand labor of slaves. A different way of life that seemed to call for a different kind.
Kansas officially became the 34th state of the United States. But its journey to statehood was filled with violence, political chaos, and a nation on the brink of war. From violent clashes known as Bleeding Kansas to a fierce political battle in Washington, this is the untold story of how Kansas's entry into the Union changed American history forever. On this day in 1861, Kansas finally achieved statehood after years of turmoil, earning the nickname Bleeding Kansas due to the violent conflict over slavery. But how did a seemingly ordinary territory become a flashpoint for America's greatest crisis, the Civil War? To understand this, we have to go back to the 1850s, when the Kansas-Nebraska Act changed everything. In 1854, Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, a law that allowed settlers to decide for themselves whether to allow slavery. This was called popular sovereignty, and it led to disaster. Kansas, right in the middle of the country, became the battleground where the future of slavery in America would be decided. Both pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers rushed to Kansas, eager to claim the territory for their cause. Towns sprang up overnight, and soon tensions exploded into violence. The fight for Kansas's future became deadly. Pro-slavery forces, backed by Missourians known as border ruffians, clashed with abolitionists from the north. Elections were rigged, towns were burned, and murders were carried out in the name of political control. Between 1855 and 1859, Kansas descended into chaos. Abolitionists, led by fiery figures like John Brown, took up arms to fight against slavery supporters in a series of violent clashes known as Bleeding Kansas. John Brown and his followers famously attacked pro-slavery settlers in the Pottawatomie Massacre, brutally killing 5 men. This event shocked the nation and further fueled tensions leading up to the Civil War. Meanwhile, Kansas struggled to draft a constitution that both sides could agree on. In 1857, a pro-slavery government submitted the Lecompton Constitution, which aimed to make Kansas a slave state. But fierce opposition led by northern lawmakers and settlers rejected it. After years of bloodshed and political turmoil, Kansas finally submitted the Wyandotte Constitution in 1859, which declared Kansas a free state. But the struggle wasn't over. Southern states fought bitterly to block it in Congress. With Abraham Lincoln's election in 1860 and the secession of Southern states, the balance of power shifted. On January 29, 1861, just weeks before the Civil War broke out, Kansas was finally admitted to the Union as a free state. Statehood didn't bring peace to Kansas. As the Civil War erupted, the state played a crucial role in supplying Union troops and guarding against Confederate raids. Kansas would go on to send over 20,000 soldiers to fight for the Union cause, cementing its legacy as the Free State. However, the scars of its bloody past remained long after the war ended. Kansas's story is a powerful reminder of the struggle for freedom and the deep divisions that led to America's greatest conflict. What do you think? Could the Civil War have been avoided if Kansas hadn't become a battleground for slavery?